Good morning and a Happy New Year to you. May 2025 be a year of blessings and peace for you and for all of us. Every 25 years in the Church, the Pope declares a Jubilee Year. In the year 2000, Pope John Paul II declared a Jubilee Year, and his emphasis was on cancelling debts, which was in the tradition of Jubilee years, when in the Jewish tradition, debts were cancelled and lost land was returned to the original owner. And in that time, around 2000, 2001, 2002 and so on, there were big campaigns to eliminate the debts, the international debts of the very poor countries. Those countries that would simply be incapable of repaying the debts, and it would be a burden around their necks forever. So there was a lot of success, and part of it was due to the popular support. I know in Peru, thanks to religious and missionary groups, including the Columbans, well over 1 million signatures were gathered and sent in to the UN for this. And now for 2025, Pope Francis has taken an unusual topic, probably the least attended of the theological virtues, hope. As you know, faith and charity are right up there. Hope's a little forgotten, but not this year, because I think the Holy Father, with all his experience, has had a rather discerning look and listen to the world around him, exercising both his senses, his mind and his heart. And he's decided if there's one thing that could contribute to making this a better world, it would be hope. And I look at some of the disasters that are around us. The first one would be October the 7th. The absolute barbarous performance by human beings when they invaded southern Israel. An appalling massacre of butchery and subhuman performance could only be motivated and organised by hatred. And then the response, equally barbarous, but this time using planes and tanks, and massacring how many people we don't know. We have one estimate, and then we have another. Whatever the figure be, it doesn't matter. It's an unlimited massacre and destruction of lives and of buildings. And then, of course, if we go a bit further north, we have Ukraine. And there, in response to the dream of an arrogant little crook in the Kremlin, millions of Ukrainians are displaced, innumerable amounts of infrastructure destroyed, hundreds of thousands killed, not only of Ukrainians, but of Russians. Because, as I mentioned once before, a calculated estimate of approximately 1,500 Russians killed every day. How many families will be in mourning? What's the solution? Nobody wins a war. And then a little closer to home, we have what I call the Festival of Knives. The stabbings we hear about on the streets, in the malls, and the violence in the homes, domestic violence. And I propose that A contributing factor to this is the unbridled violence and extremes we see on local television. Because I just imagine someone comes home from a hard day's work, or someone's been labouring in the house all day, and they finally finish and wind up what they have to do. They sit down in a couch and just passively soak up these bad, negative, destructive messages and images. So I ask, with what are we nourishing and feeding our spirits? And the final one I want to mention is what I perceive as an organised undermining or destruction of the family unit as we know it. And part of that I see, one symptom of that, is when kids in primary school have their sexual identity questioned by supposed authorities. The kid hasn't even had the chance to develop his sexual identity or her sexual identity. And yet we have people questioning it and sowing doubts. So none of these situations seem to have a resolution within them. And I think the Holy Father has picked on hope as a way of responding to these and so many others in our world today. Because hope is more a verb than a noun. Hope is motivation to action, to realise a perceived good. Now that good could be peace today. It could be life today. It could be fraternity. It could be justice. And so on. And so many other goods that we can perceive. And I believe we can perceive these because of a relationship we have with God. God is good. God is true. God is life. And God is love. And this God gives us the grace to see ways to resolve, to respond to situations that are desperate. In other words, to make this world a better world. And I pray that that might be the case for 2025. The Pope declared this year on Christmas Eve, and he presented a long discourse of explaining his reasons, which is well worth reading if you have the time. So have a great year and keep hoping, and let that hope motivate you to create a better world than the one in which we live at the moment. Okay? God bless you and have a great year.